the listener who asked the question about this immense struggle with body image, I just want to, again, recognize that with all the biblical truth that is wonderful, we're human and we're walking in a broken world. And sometimes just the language of an immense struggle of how consuming or distracting or discouraging or heavy this burden may be. I want to give just a couple of practical tools that might be helpful. One, just remembering that, again, sin corrupts. and we want to remember that God is the one who creates and restores and rehabilitates. And so just, I think, recognizing the possible narratives that you are listening to, the messages that we can identify as false, or the lies that are influencing us, and challenging our own emotions, challenging our own thoughts at times, slowing down to just consider where that internal dialogue or those messages that we're influencing ourselves more than anybody else because of what we're taking in. I think if there's a way to slow down and confront some of those narratives, or just even identify them, I think awareness is a lot of the time a big part of moving towards freedom, is just being honest and admitting where the world has influenced you more than the gospel, and taking that into the light of God and His love. And then the practicality of social media may be something that you might want to cut back on, or even take a break from, and remove some of those constant messages and the ways that our eyes are taking in these ideals and these standards that are reconciling in our internal world what is true, even when it's contrary to the Word of God and the beauty of the gospel. And so I think we've just got to recognize that we are filtering all the time. And so I think just even being intentional to know to put a filter on with the glory of Christ and the truth of God, that if and when you go into the world through social media, or you turn on the television, or you're watching a movie, we're not going to accidentally filter through the wisdom of God. We have to be pretty intentional about that, and put forth, the armor of God and the shield of faith and the breastplate of righteousness and the sword of the Spirit, to be actively and intentionally filtering and declaring what's true over what the lies are that we're taking in. So when sin corrupts, God creates. God has created us. We're made in His image. And so going back to just an eternal perspective, a biblical worldview, I think reminding ourselves what is true, and ultimately having that determine what is true about us, and then entering into the world day in and day out, moment by moment, believing that and operating out of that truth and that narrative. By God's grace, we're going to be able to do the battle. We're going to be able to wage war against the lies and schemes of the enemy that wants to deceive and distract and discourage us.